we've got an echo in this thing for some reason. Do we all have to mute for now?
I would encourage everybody to mute. And you can hit your space bar to do so.
Okay, you can, there's a mute icon down at the bottom right above. I don't know what yours looks like, but and you can unmute it by just touching the space bar.
The echo's gone now.
I'm sorry, Charles?
The echo's gone now.
Okay. All right. The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of October 8th, 2020. They were included in your packet. Okay.
Support.
All right, we have a motion. It's been supported. Kathy, can you tell who's made the motion?
I heard Commissioner Wilkins and then Commissioner Foster supporting.
Okay. All right. Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes of October 8th? If there aren't any, we'll vote. And again, we're going to do a roll call on every vote. So Kathy, I hope you've got plenty of forms.
Commissioner Hovey-Wright? Chairman Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner? Commissioner Larry?
Yes.
Tony? Star 3, Commissioner Mahoney?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder? Commissioner Wilkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick?
Yes. Okay, so the minutes are approved. If everybody would mute your microphone unless you want to speak.
Kathy's microphone.
I'm sorry, Charles?
That's Kathy's microphone.
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe. Kathy, did you mute? Just say yes or just you did. Okay, great, thanks. All right, now we have time for public comment on an agenda item. Is there anyone that has would like to speak to something that's on the agenda today? In order to raise your hand, I think you hit 3-star. Kathy, do you know?
We have a Denny Chirette. The hand raised.
That's correct. On your phone, yes.
Denny, are you there?
Hello. I was muted. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I don't think you can see me, which probably is not an altogether bad thing. But I just wanted to, I know that the agenda item that we are interested in, establishment of the DDA, is up later. I wanted just to initially thank all of you for considering this. We view this as a critical tool for the community of the Township Report, as well as for the county. And certainly, I understand, having been in some leadership roles over the years, how difficult leadership can be, particularly when there's a great deal of information floating around. And that's in the best of circumstances. And I know that there are challenging times within the county. And as a taxpayer of the county, I'm very grateful for the leadership that you have all provided as you and so many other communities work at the challenges you all face. I do have comments regarding the proposal itself and would propose with the chair's consent or the board's or the committee's agreement that I would present those only if I feel that something's being presented that is incongruent with what we believe to be the facts. So I just wanted to introduce that we're here, say thank you for the work you've been doing. Thank you for your consideration today. And we will now mute unless I can answer any questions right now and wait for our turn to talk if need be.
We're going to discuss this later, this a little bit later in the meeting. So unless somebody's got something that they'd like to talk to Mr. Charette right now, we'll be going through this in not too long today. So I don't hear anybody wanting to say anything, so we'll move on. The next,
You got call user number 8.
I'm sorry, Charles.
You got calling user number 8 up next.
Okay,
That's Commissioner Mahoney.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, it's got your hand raised.
That's just so we can identify him.
Oh.
okay.
Next
We also
up,
have
Tice.
supervisor from Fruitport Township, Heidi Tice, has her hand raised.
Okay. Heidi, do you want to speak to that? Yeah, is she unmuted?
She's not unmuted right now.
Okay, so there's no one on there that's wanting to speak right now. Is that correct?
I'm not sure
We
if
have
she
to
wants
unmute
speak
Heidi
or-
Tice.
Bob,
Yes.
There you go.
it's Susie. Before you move on, I just wanted to let you know that on this WebEx, we can scroll the agenda up and down, and we couldn't do that before, and I love that. And I just wanted to be able to tell everybody you can do that.
Well, you can only get to page 1.
But at least we can move it down.
Yeah. Correct.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, thank you. I'm Heidi Tice. I'm with Fruitport Township. I also would like to thank the board for looking at this proposed DDA. I also wanted to let you know that the board, during our discussion at our last meeting, a topic that I know that you were concerned about is the footprint of that DDA, and we actually are looking at making that smaller. We want to include in the mall, but several of us, myself included, understand that when the casino comes in, we probably won't need to have a vehicle to drive that development. The casino will more than likely drive that development. So we will probably be looking at a smaller footprint where we would stop at Sternberg. We definitely want to get that mall in there just because of the position that it's in right now. Fruitport just really wants to have an opportunity to help get in sewer, water, and improve and drive development into that area like other municipalities can do. So thank you very much for looking at this today.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is communication, the budget report. Beth, you want to say anything about that, or that's just for our information?
That's just for information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Kathy, are you muted? I don't know if that's coming from you or, okay, thank you. We'll move on to items for consideration. The first one is WM 20/10-89 to approve payment of the accounts payable of $18,332,928.46, covering the period of September 25th, 2020 through October 8th, 2020 for checks, electronic fund transfer payments covering the period September 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, as presented by the county clerk.
So moved.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and supported, and as always, there's an explanation of the major items, what they are. And does anybody have any, I know Mr. Laring, I'm sure, has a comment, but does anybody else have a comment, question? Okay,
Mr. Chair, I do have a comment if I may.
yes, sir, go ahead.
All right, so again, I'm opposed to this motion simply because we can't scrutinize the budget items individually. Last Ways and Means Committee, there were several questions scrutinizing several payments, and there's no point in having a motion that we can't scrutinize the individual payments. It's either all or nothing. I would like to see these payments, anything over $100,000 in an individual motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll vote. Roll call, Kathy.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No?
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Kathy, is John Snyder on this phone?
I have not seen him yet. I helped him a couple hours ago figure out how to do that, so I anticipated him, but I haven't heard from him.
I don't see his name unless he's one of the call-ins that's not identified.
Are you talking about Ken?
No, John Snyder.
Well, is Ken Mahoney on? Because he couldn't get in either.
No, he's on.
He's on. Okay.
Yes.
I'm on the phone.
Yeah. It's when you live out in the woods like that, it's difficult.
Well, I don't live in the woods and I couldn't get in either.
All right, moving on. WM 20/10-90 to approve renewal of assessment administration services provided by the Equalization Department to the Township of Fruitport and authorize the Chair of the County Board of Commissioners to execute an agreement prepared by the Equalization Department. I can't read, to provide.
So moved.
Support.
All right, we have, motion, and we had a motion, somebody
Ken supported it.
okay. And Donna's going to call if there are any questions. Nobody? Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Laring. Commissioner Laring.
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. All right, the next item is WM 20/10-91 to approve use of the proposed interlocal agreement for, wait a minute, the motion disappeared. Interlocal agreement for a county designated assessor with Donna Vandervries serving as designated assessor for the county.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Any questions on that? Anybody? If not, roll call, please, Kathy.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. The next one is WM 20/10-92 to approve adoption of the 2020 apportionment report as prepared and submitted by the Muskegon County Equalization Department.
So moved. Support.
Any questions on that? Again, Donna is here. Good job on that, Donna. That's a lot of work. Okay, roll call on that, Kathy, please.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster, Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright, Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. All right, the next item is WM 20/10-93 to authorize the airport to apply for inclusion in MDOT's fiscal year 2021 crack sealing program.
So moved.
moved.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any questions on that? All right, we'll vote. Kathy?
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Susie?
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
and Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, the next item is WM 20/10-94 to approve a new lease agreement number GS-05P-ILMI 00654 with the TSA beginning November 1st, 2020 and continuing for 5 years for the rental of 916 square feet at a total annual rent of $88,182.68.
So moved.
So moved. Mahoney.
Support.
moved.
Okay, we've had a motion. It's been supported.
I have a question,
Anything on that? Yes, go ahead. Who is that?
Marcia.
Okay, yes, Marcia.
Yeah, in the documents included in the packet, their current rent is 23,900. And so this is a jump from 2,300 or 2,400, let's say, to 88,000. I'm sorry, 23,000 to 88,000. And the increase in square footage was not that much. So I guess I wonder why it's such a huge increase. I mean, it's to the county's benefit, but I just need to understand it.
I
Bob?
think it's for more years.
This is Bob Lukens, Community Development Director. Yes, we were just able to, through the process of negotiation with the TSA, we were able to get a better square footage rental price for the property in the terminal. In the past, they have rented the bulk of their property that they rented, or the leasable space that they rented was in the admin building. Now they're moving to the terminal, so the cost is a bit higher there. And it worked out to our benefit, fortunately.
Not higher, and they agreed to it?
Yes, they did.
Okay, good job.
Everything's in the terminal now for TSA. Or it will be.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes,
I also want to give congratulations to Rita Bierman. She worked on this contract as well. So to both of them, Bob and Rita did a great job on this. Thank you, Rita.
Mr. Chair, I have a question if I may.
yes, you may, Zach.
So I am curious about this. It seems like we just approved a little bit less than 100 square feet not that long ago, and now there's another less than 100 feet. But how do these lease agreements go? If they're 5-year lease agreements, are they going to be stuck with 5 years from now, potentially, if something changed, that they would just have a little dinky piece of real estate left in the county, or do they all expire at once? How does their contract work on this 5-year agreement?
As far as I know, Commissioner, it's a standard agreement that the TSA uses for renting space in airports. The term of this lease is for the 5 years. So, you know, if anything changes, we'll renegotiate at that time.
So potentially they've got a 5-year lease on less than 100 square feet in the airport in 5 years. In 4 years, another lease is going to expire, or 3. Is that how this works? I'm just curious the inner workings of the contract of this. It seems odd that they would lease under 100 square feet for 5 years when the other ones are going to expire in potentially 3 or 4.
I believe the other leases, this will package it as one lease.
Okay.
They'll be entirely located within the terminal now.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, did we, Kathy, did we vote on this? I don't remember.
No, sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, that passes. The next item is WM 20/10-95 to authorize Human Resources to select Infinisource as the COBRA and Section 125 benefit provider from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and support. Kristen is on the call, I think. Are there any questions on this?
Kristen, I do have a question. I'm just wondering, will they have all of our email addresses? Because I noticed it seemed like we get a lot of email from them.
Kristen Wade, Human Resources Director. No, Infinisource is strictly our third-party administrator for the Section 125, so would only have employees that participate in the child care reimbursement accounts or the dependent care the health care reimbursement account, and then they administer our COBRA, so any employees that are leaving or leaving dependent status or anything like that, but they do not have our full database of employees, no.
Great, thank you very much.
Kristen, I think, are they the one, they do the FSA account?
Correct, the flexible spending account, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other? Okay, Kathy?
Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Commissioner Nash.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yes.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Laring.
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Could you hear me, Kathy?
Yes, I heard you.
Okay, the next one is WM 20/10-96 to authorize Human Resources to continue with Reliance Standard as the selected provider for basic life, accident death, and dismemberment and long-term disability from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Support.
All right. Any questions on that? Okay, Kathy? Without the echo this time.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes.
Hey, Kathy, it might help if you turn your speakers down a little bit. I know you got to hear us. If you
I've
turn-
got them down and like as far as I can go and still hear you.
Oh, okay. Never
I
mind.
think it might be Kristen.
Kristen is a troublemaker.
Whoever it is that quit.
Yeah, it's going now. Okay, moving on. The next item is WM 20/10-97 to authorize Human Resources to select Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan as the medical insurance benefit provider from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022 for active employees and age 65 retirees.
So moved.
Okay, I need support.
Support.
Okay, who did the support?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on that? If not, we'll vote on that too then, Kathy, please.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes, Kathy. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, next item is WM 20/10-98 to authorize Human Resources to contract with Delta Dental on a self-insured basis for active employees and a fully insured basis for retirees effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st,
So moved.
2021. Yeah.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion. Motion's been made. It's been supported. We're gonna go with Delta Dental. Are there any questions for Kristen?
I would just like to say thank you to Kristen for getting these to us before they were expired. She did a really good job and I wanted to thank her.
Okay. Kathy, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes, Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. All right, the next item is WM 20/10-99 to authorize Human Resources to select IMED as the vision insurance benefit provider from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been supported. Any questions on that? Kathy?
I don't, wait a minute, I have a question. It doesn't have an end date. It says 4 years.
No, it says 2024.
Okay, I didn't see it. Thank you.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Next is WM 20/10-100 to authorize procurement of a new facilities management truck and plow using my deal for a not to exceed cost of $38,000.
So moved.
Support.
Matt's on the call if there are any questions about that. We did discuss this in the agenda meeting.
Mr.
I
Chair,
just have one question. Did he check it anywhere except my deal? Because I keep hearing that that's not always the cheapest. It did come up at my township last night too, that it's not the cheapest.
We will work with procurement on that, and you're correct. I'm sorry, Matt Farrell, Public Works Director. We also use for other items, we use Sourcewell and other cooperatives, but my deal has been fairly decent with vehicles, but yes, we will check others.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I am wondering, is this a replacement vehicle or are you adding an additional truck to the fleet? And if so, why?
A replacement.
What is happening to the old vehicle?
We got rid of that a while back. It was just old. I believe it was the one that had the split frame, broken frame.
Okay.
But we'll get you some exact dates to Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay. Did we vote?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, Kathy, we did or we did?
Pardon me?
Did we vote on that, Kathy?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, that passes. The next item is WM 20/10-101 to approve the payoff of a 2017 Ford Police Interceptor leased vehicle through Ford Motor Credit that was totaled in an accident with $14,250 in insurance proceeds and remaining approximately $6,592.14 to be paid from the sheriff's operation budget 1010-0301 and amend the budget accordingly.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion. Support. Anybody?
Bob, I have a question.
Okay.
On that, it says requested to be added to sheriff's budget to offset. Is that going to change his budget to be more expensive or less expensive?
I can speak to that. This is Beth Dick, Director of Finance. It would increase the expenses in the sheriff's budget, that particular budget, by that amount over what was originally approved back in September.
So where is that money going to come from?
It would have to come from fund balance or unassigned fund balance.
So it's something that you would have to take out of what we have left over from the budget?
It would be out of the reserves or the fund balance that the county has.
Do we keep track of that so we can see how much is coming out of each budget and being taken out of the fund balance?
Well, each department within the general fund or each what we call organization, in this case 0301, has a budget amount. And, you know, as you're aware, the budget that was approved for fiscal 2021 was not a balanced budget. It was approved to take about $1.8 million out of our fund balance. This would add another $6,663 out of, or that's the number I'm reading on the screen, out of fund balance unless there's a way for the sheriff to be able to find savings somehow within his budget for that amount. I'm not aware that that's the case.
And I understand you probably can't because this was a crash that you don't anticipate for. But from now on, could you include what their balance was and how much has either been added to it or taken away from it so we can look at that too?
When motions come forward like this, is
Yes.
what you're asking? Yes,
Yes.
we can do that.
Thank you
Yep.
very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, I have a question also. If I may, you're muted, Bob, so I'll just continue. I am wondering if.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. I just was wondering if I muted myself, if it would stop the echo. It did not. So, okay, go ahead.
So my question is on these lease agreements, if gap insurance is available, and if it is, why we're not looking at that? I think we've had 2 wreck cruisers already this year.
That would be something I'd have to ask our risk manager.
Yeah, Kristen Wade might be able to answer that question.
This is Kristen Wade, Human Resources Director. We can certainly look into that. Currently, for our vehicles, we just have the ACV coverage, which is the actual cash value, which would include depreciation. But yes, we can certainly look into some gap insurance.
Well, it's my understanding gap insurance is not that expensive. And this year in particular, we can't afford to have anything extra taken out of every fund for a shortfall.
Okay, then we need to vote. Kathy?
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright. Commissioner Hovey Wright?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Skolnick?
Yes. Okay, and the final item is WM 20/10-102 to approve the prosecutor to apply for and accept the fiscal year 2021 Crime Victim Rights Navigator Pilot Program Grant in the amount of $77,608.
So moved. Support.
Okay, are there any, I don't know if somebody from the prosecutor's office is on the call. Are there any questions on that? If not, we'll vote. Kathy, please.
Commissioner Laring?
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Yes.
Commissioner Nash?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder? Commissioner Wilkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright? Chairman Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick?
Yes. Okay, old business. Does anyone have any old business for the Ways and Means Committee?
Commissioner, I do, County Administrator.
Yeah, go ahead. Is that you, Mark?
Yes, that's smart. Yeah. All right. It was kind of brought up under Commissioner Hughes brought up what our fund balances were, unassigned fund balances that Beth mentioned. We do have a little bit of update on our budget, and it's good news. So I wanted to share it with you. Blue Cross Blue Shield, we projected a 11% increase for 2021. They came back and informed us this week that it's 0 increase. So we're seeing a plus of 300,000 for the general fund there. We also received news from the governor's office that the revenue sharing that we projected a 20% reduction. So we was projecting 80% instead of 100. They informed us that we will be receiving 100%, which equates to a $700,000 increase. And then the courts also said they have savings that they did not spend in the general fund. Circuit court, roughly 235,000. Family court, roughly 128,000. I'm rounding these numbers off. And child care fund, roughly 400,000. That equates to roughly 700,000. So if you were to add all those up, we're looking at a 1.7 million going back to our unassigned fund balance. So it's much better than what we talked about 3 weeks ago, and I'm happy to report this. So it's looking much more positive than what our projections were going into 2021. Thank you.
So that puts us at a +4 or 500.
I come up with 1.7. Beth mentioned a 1.8, so roughly $100,000 difference at this point.
Oh, okay.
And my numbers are rounded off. Once Beth has the audit finished, we'll have exact numbers in at that point. But we are much closer, relatively. 100,000 off is very good.
The budget is essentially balanced. I mean, it's 100,000 off, but that's a small number. So, okay, that's excellent. Thanks for that. We talked about that last week, but I assume now that you're telling everybody, you're pretty sure it's correct.
I'm more positive. I mean, obviously, the insurance number was confirmed this week. Revenue sharing, again, that's a projection. That's our governor sending us a letter that said we'll receive 100% of that. And the courts is a projection. So again, they're better numbers than what we reported back in September.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Any other old business? Okay, moving on to new business. Mark, you're going to talk about this, the Fruitport Downtown Development Authority?
You're muted, Mark.
Thank you. So yes, I'll kick this off. I have Donna Vanderlees with us today too from Equalization in that fair, who submitted a letter, his work on this as well. So I'll have both of those speak on this. But the DDA, as many municipalities, I shouldn't say many, several of the city municipalities have had in the past. Norton Shores has one, obviously across the street on Harvey. City of Muskegon, I think Whitehall. So there are a few other ones that have this in the past. We've had something similar called the TIF from Fruitport, no, excuse me, from Ravenna, not too long ago. And when they presented, initially we rejected it, but then they came back with another plan that seemed to work for us and the developer out there. So Fruitport had a public meeting on this. A lot of good discussion came out of it. And we have to respond our decision within 60 days. That ends the 1st of November. I think Heidi will have the exact date on that when that ends. But we have to address this either today or vote on it at the full board on okay. There's a lot to go into it. Development, my understanding from what Heidi said, they are thinking about changing the size of it. At one point, it went from Honolulu to Ohio. And if you back out the casino, she mentioned Sternberg, so I'm assuming now Sternberg to Honolulu is the option. If you recall, when we did the city of Muskegon back in the 90s, it was done because the mall was getting ready to close, and the DDA helped out development there as well. Again, we all know the circumstances that our current mall is in, and this development on the golf course will definitely help. Across the street with Norton Shores, I want to discuss a little bit about that. We've been receiving, and Beth has the exact number, the dollars we've been receiving from Norton Shores the last few years from their tax increment collection. We've been receiving some dollars on that, but Norton Shores ends in 4 years. So, and they're not going to renew it. They're not going to ask to renew it. So then the dollars will start rolling in. So back in the 90s when that DDA was established, the commissioners then had agreed to that DDA, and now it's coming to an end. So we'll start seeing those dollars come in.
Mark, could I just add something to that?
Yes.
I was on the city council in Norton Shores when that TIF was voted in. And really, one of the major accomplishments of that TIF was that whole Sternberg interchange. The mall, all those, the 5-lane highways out there. I mean, they used the money to pay for the land. I mean, that made a major difference in the development out there. And if you look at the Norton Shores side of the road versus the Fruitport side of the road, you can see the difference TIF made. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got to that.
No,
Bob,
you're right.
I would like to follow up on that, what Bob said. Also, I know that when the Norton Shores got all of their development done, they were able to send their TIF money to the county. So I know in the last few years, they've sent money to us from their TIF.
And a lot of it.
Quite a bit, yes.
So Kathy, you could scroll down. Thank you for that, Commissioner. Scroll down. I just want to make sure everybody realizes what's all attached to this. You have that letter. Keep scrolling. Then they have the TIF for 15 years, and it shows the difference there as well. And you have a letter from Heidi scrolling down from Dickinson, right? I mean, and their explanations. And then we get down to staff's letter from Matt Ferris. So I'm going to turn this over to Matt, let him explain his letter, and then I'll ask Donna to speak on this as well.
Thank you, commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Matt, we can hear you.
Fruitport Township provided the county with a 15-year model with information they know. The current development at hand that's proposed, they modeled that over the next 15 years. One of the issues here, it's very similar with the issue that we observed in Ravenna, in the village of Ravenna, where they had a subdivision that had been there for 20 years, at least that I recall, development just because of the high cost to bring in water sewer to it. I believe in the case in Ravenna, if they had to include the cost of that, it would have been $50,000 per lot just for water and sewer. We have a similar situation here south of Sternberg, is we just don't have the infrastructure there to serve these fallow lands. But in addition to that, one thing that the township pointed out to me was they didn't want a development to come to, say, the golf course and just run small utilities into it. They want to make those utilities big enough to serve the next one, the next property, and the next property, in order so development keeps going. If the utilities get too small, not sized with the capacity to serve abutting properties, it'll permanently shut them off. So they've been talking about this for quite some time. And again, they provided a 15-year model to get the money necessary to kickstart things in that corridor. One of the options that we looked at, kind of similar in the Ravenna case, is in the Ravenna case, we did a 10-20-30. We didn't just do it permanently. The options you have before you today is you can opt in, which would require absolutely nothing, to take no action. But in line with the Fruitport model, the information they provided, a 15-year participation agreement would, according to the projections, provide the area with the funds that it needs to kickstart development throughout that corridor. That's what was modeled by the township, and that's the other option that's available to you today. Does anyone have any questions about a DDA and a TIF and how that works?
Matt, this is
Yes.
Commissioner Larian. So my understanding is this is a DDA, not a TIF at this time.
That is correct. What we're doing today is it could be a DDA, a Downtown Development Authority, which is what the township has proposed. It could be a Neighborhood Improvement Association. The city of Muskegon is getting ready to do a corridor improvement authority. All these authorities use tax increment financing as their funding source. So they all use the same thing. So, but with a DDA, now is the time to lay out the conditions where we opt in or opt out. But yet, in the future though, Commissioner, they will use or propose to use tax increment financing, which all that simply means is if a developer goes in and adds $10 million worth of taxable value, they only capture that taxes off the new development to pay for the things needed to get development started. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Matt, is the same thing we did in Ravenna not long ago?
It's almost identical. The difference is same problem, needing utilities, infrastructure to the sites, across the sites. But Ravenna did a neighborhood improvement authority, which would use a TIF. This is a downtown development authority that will use a TIF as well. So it's almost identical, yes.
Thank you.
Matt, would you go on to the next page 2 and talk about your page 3, the 3 options that you wrote out?
Yeah, can we scroll up to page 3, please? Well, the first option is opting in. It would require no action by the commission. We would be in for however long the DDA goes on. The next is a 15-year participation in the DDA. I'm sorry, the TIF.
This is the wrong page.
Right, it's not, it should be. Kathy, if you'd, you were on it, right there. I go back down to Matt's second page, or his third page. One more, right?
There it is, right there. Those are the things that you can consider at this point.
So with that, Donna, you want to list your pros and cons?
All right. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Donna Vandervries, Muskegon County Equalization Director. The pros for a DDA is DDA spur development, so that should spur development in the area. The development, like Matt said, probably wouldn't be developed because of the high cost of water and sewer out there. Another pro is you don't lose the current tax base. In this case, the current tax base may actually drop because of the commercial appeals in the state out there, like of the mall. The mall itself needs redevelopment. We have a dying mall, and the dollars could be used in the future for that purpose. We haven't opted out in the past. We were able to negotiate better in Ravenna. The one thing about not opting out in the past, we weren't able to prior to 1994 when the law changed. Now, some of the cons, we won't get the tax dollars from the tax base increase, although that might not happen, but for the DDA. The DDA captures the increase in the dollars. The board of the DDA is a board of unelected people who control the spending. There's 2 from the township board, but the rest, which they have up to 8 to 12 on the board, are not elected. It's a broad area, although I think Heidi was talking about making it more limited, not just to the golf course here, and it had included the casino property. And what are the tax dollars going to be used for, and for how long after the water and sewer? So basically, like Matt said, you could do nothing, which means you opt in. You can opt out completely. You can maybe come up with some kind of interlocal agreement limiting the terms of our participation. Like another alternative I saw is you could opt out but opt into specific projects. That was recommended in the article, like the golf course and the mall. Or maybe like the city of Grand Rapids and Kent County had a policy that they came up with, and in certain circumstances they would gain share. I'm not sure if they're still doing the policy where they were opting out, but there's different options you can do. But the development may not occur without us participating.
Donna? Donna?
Yeah?
No, any questions for Donna?
Mark, I have a
I
question.
have one question. Because we're looking at adopting this and adapting it as a DDA, once a future TIF is established, does it change our agreement at all?
That, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it, Commissioner. I'd be happy to try and look into it. I mean, maybe our attorney might know. If he's on here.
Well, we see if Mike Lemire's on the line. Bob, excuse me, Matt Farah, do you know?
It's my understanding, if the commission was, wanted us to pursue option number one, we would have all those legal documents and vehicles in place for the 27th.
And I wondered, with those documents, they said they were gonna drop it down for years. Will we get like a 10-year option? And also, is this number right if they're gonna take the casino out of there?
That number would change slightly if the casino property comes out of there right now, but I can't imagine that's very high taxable value right now. The township meets on the 26th, so we'll know for certain what they're gonna do, and we'll update those numbers.
And how long do we have after the 26th?
Your meeting is the 27th.
Okay.
Because we have till, it's like November 12th, I think it is. So we'd have to do it at the next full board meeting.
Thank you.
Mark, is there a way we can also get some information on how this DDA would be tracked?
Commissioner
Yes.
Nash, do you mean financially?
Correct.
They have to do reports, Commissioner Nash. The DDA.
Well, the reason I ask that is if we have other agreements like this, I've never seen an agreement come through to show us when we've reached our mark. And I'm just trying to see who's monitoring that and how does that get reported back to us?
I can look into that for you and have it for you next Tuesday.
And I'm not sure if it comes back to us, but when Fruitport reached that mark, they did reach out to us and say, we've got money we can't spend, and they started sending us a check every year.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they're not an exception to the rule. And, how do we know when it reaches that? None of us will probably be there, but it should be some type of monitoring and reporting. Because we have a lot of these, but we don't hear that from every one of them.
You're right.
Commissioner, I'll check into that. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask Heidi. I thought the last date, the 60 days ended on November 5th, I believe. So our next full board, we would have to vote on this, which would be October 27th.
And I don't think
It's 60 days from the date that we had the public hearing, so it is November the 12th.
Okay, so we do have another full board meeting on the 10th as well. Okay. Thank you for that, Heidi. So to recap, commissioners, One question that I got to follow up on is if a TIF was established later, how does that affect the DDA that is passed or could be passed? The second question from Commissioner Nash is how will this be tracked going forward if it was to be passed? Any other questions to follow up on?
Mark, I have a question. So if I understand this correctly, if we take no action today, it will be a motion that's brought before the full board, and if we don't turn it down, it passes, correct?
Correct.
Two questions there. I plan to bring it back then on the 27th with these answers to these questions. And at that meeting, if there was no action taken whatsoever, it's number one there. If we take no action, then that means it goes through. No, Matt has that switched on me. So opt in. So on the screen that we have in front of us, number two is if we take no action by the commission, it goes, we're in. Option one shows a little different criteria there, 15 years with a cap of 6.6 million on it. So if the 6.6 million came before the 15 years up, then it would be done. Otherwise, the most it will be is 15 years. So to answer your question, Commissioner Laring, it's if we do nothing, represent option two.
You still said we have until November the 10th at the latest to vote on this.
Correct.
So if we didn't have a consensus on the 27th, we could review this on the 10th.
Correct.
You can.
That is my report on this. Matt, Donna, anything else to add?
I said one more thing, if I may. One thing that Fruit Board indicated to me, and only staff wants to know, if you're at all interested in option one in front of you, we'd probably want to start preparing those legal documents for your consideration at your next meeting. Is that something that the commission is desirous of?
Yes, Mark, I'd like to, or I'm sorry, Matt, I'd like to see that on the next full board meeting. But I'd also like to know if they made a decision to go to smaller amount of time. Whatever
Yeah,
the Fruit Board has decided.
Yeah, that's the township's decision.
I'd like to know that before it comes to our bus.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the difference is. If we take no action, then does it revert to number one or something different?
Number one. I mean, number two is 15 years without a cap. So if we did nothing, that's the difference. If
There's
number
no
two
cap?
number two would not have a cap, but would be 15 years.
Point out that number comes from the 15-year model provided by the township.
Yeah. We also have corporate counsel on, joined us now, and he would like to speak on this topic. Mike?
Yeah, so we're looking at, whether or how that procedurally functions. And so I'm not prepared to tell you necessarily, except that there is a provision under the statute which allows for a revenue sharing agreement. The question is whether we have to opt out and then enter into that agreement, which is likely going to be the preference, although I'm still kind of pinning those things down. So I will definitely have an answer to you by your next board meeting. But I'm wondering, and the sticking point for us is whether you opt out completely and then enter into a revenue sharing agreement after that.
Mike, were you on when Commissioner Nash asked the question? If we agreed to this number 1 or number 2 now, and then a TIF came back later, would that trump really the DDA?
No, so, well, I guess it depends on what you mean by the TIF. The TIF portion of the DDA statute is just the revenue producing component of the development plan itself, right? So they are included under the same statute. They're not a separate entity. The DDA itself is the entity, then adopts a development plan, and then may also adopt a TIF plan to capture that tax revenue to fund those developments under the plan.
Commissioner Nash, any follow-up questions to that?
So the development plan has to be developed prior to the TIF?
Yeah, typically the development plan is approved prior to the approval of the TIF plan or the increment finance plan, which goes to support the development plan.
And do we have an idea when that is going to be developed? Because that's going to determine the numbers, am I correct?
Well, I don't know that it determines the numbers necessarily, because it would, except for in the case of libraries, and there's some special rules there, that TIF plan would capture the tax revenue of entities that tax in that in the DDA district. So I'm not sure the TIF plan itself is going to affect whether or not you do or do not opt out, except that you may opt out and then enter into a revenue sharing agreement with the DDA so that you could agree, in essence, for the DDA to capture part of the tax revenue otherwise collected by the county.
Okay, so what we're really just looking for is the establishment of this district, exactly the lines are going to be drawn.
Yeah, it's really the establishment of the DDA itself. And so, you're given this opportunity within 60 days of that public hearing to decide whether you're in or out. So, if and I'm not certain of this just yet, but my preference, I think, is going to be opt out and then agree to a revenue sharing component if the county agrees to that on the tax capture portion that would have otherwise occurred if you were in.
So it sounds like we need option 1 and 3 developed.
I also need to know what it's actually going to cost the county in taxes, loss of taxes, each year or during the whole thing, or actually both.
Commissioner Hughes, Donna Vandergreef again. It's not going to cost us lost taxes because we're not going to lose what we don't have. It's future taxes, depending on what they do, that we would lose.
Great. Thank you, Donna. That's what I wanted to know.
Commissioner Nash.
It's going to be established in option 1 anyway.
Mr. Chairman, this is Denny Charette. I have a couple of comments and clarifying points when it's appropriate.
Bob, I would like to hear what you have to say if that's possible.
Yeah, no, I know. I was muted. Yeah, Denny, go ahead. Say what you have to say.
Well, thank you. We provided your board, I believe, with a comprehensive outline of how a DDA TIFA works. I'm not sure your council is in possession of it, that we had Warner, Norcross, and Judd, well, they do general counsel for us as well. That clearly outlines the process. And important from a perspective as a developer and other property owners in that area. Several basic points. There is no cost pointed out to the county. There is no loss of revenue to the schools. Schools were uncertain of that when we met at the township. They have subsequently corrected their understanding of that and have indeed called me and indicated one of the board members that they were incorrect. And that member went on to say he would be talking to other board members. The creation of the DDA is a vehicle to provide for incremental financing authority. I know a little bit about this because I was the chairman of the Economic Development Corporation for the city of Grand Haven, and all of those came across my desk. I think it's important that is, and we did some initial projections. It would be one of the things I would have concern of is if you have not done revenue sharing agreements with other municipalities within your county, but try to with Fruitport. I can't speak for Fruitport, but that would seem to be unusual and without much precedent. If you have, I withdraw that observation. In terms of the project, Matt was right. In order to get developed from north to south, there's a reason that the east side of the corridor on Harvey is stopped in its development, and it's because of the lack of utilities. Now, if you look on the west side of Harvey, it's virtually fully developed, and that's because there's a TIFA district. I think Herb Fry was an old friend of mine, some of you may remember, created that in the 90s, and it's still in place, but I think it's about to sunset. I believe it's still in place. There is no downside. The downside is this. We have a large tract of land, and if somehow, this were not to go forward, but we could run smaller pipes, if you will, but everyone gets one bite at the apple at this. Then you've, I believe, essentially eradicated the ability for further development to the south in the absence of the township bearing the brunt of this. One other important point is the concept that someone other than the landowner pays for this. I pay for it, and the other people pay for it through the revenue capture on the risk capital that we put forward to create these developments. On one compelling point I would like to make, and it's unfortunate what's happened with the mall. My suspicion is they may have been aided had that been in place then. But what we're proposing here at this development, if any of you know of our company history on our project, and I can't speak for the other folks, although I know all the people down in the corner very well personally, and they're all very professional and well-heeled local people. The job creation that's going to occur, the type of development that we will put there will be something that has not been seen candidly, I don't think, in Muskegon County. As to quantifying a development plan, we already have one. We've submitted a preliminary and an almost fully engineered site plan to Fruitport. It is my estimate that our project alone, that the full development of our site, just our site, will probably be accretive to the municipality by about a double, by about $2 to $3 million. And that money comes from the taxes, our case, Mr. Chairman, that we pay, and others would obviously enhance and increase that. Indeed, as may have been mentioned earlier, someone said that a con was there's an independent DDA board. Well, there are a lot of independent, non-elected boards. I've served on many of them, but in Norton Shores, the additional assets that were built out of excess TIFA funds greatly enhanced the community. So there's really no economic risk. And finally, dollars, someone asked someone about tracking the dollars. That's very simple. You collect your ad valorem taxes. The taxes are contributed toward the TIFA bonds. The bonds are retired. And then from then on, that point forward, folks they continue to build the corpus to the benefit of the municipality. I'd encourage, certainly if you want to do some period of time limit, that's fine. But I think that discourages what most municipalities don't do. I wonder if you've done it in the past. And moreover, if we can somehow find a way to run a tiny pipe and do our thing, it has long-term ramifications. To me, commissioners, I try to measure risk, upside potential versus downside risk. And as the Warner letter will point out, and I believe your treasurer or whomever did the pros and cons pointed out, there is no economic downside risk to a TIF. And we want to get to a TIF. The PDA is the vehicle for that. So whatever would expedite that is what will allow us to go forward. Indeed, we've got almost fully developed plans and specifications for the 217 unit apartment community we're going to put behind the clubhouse area toward the southeast corner of the property, and then going from southeast to north. We already have bids, but if there's a protracted delay to try to cut a deal, and again, that's up to you all, but, and I'm not an advocate or not advocating, and report goes along with great. You could get into a quantitative analysis that's theoretical, and then have a further theoretical revenue sharing model that may or may not be accurate. And in the absence of you having experience with that or having done it to another community, I don't see that as necessarily equitable to this community. And I say all this with respect and also knowing that you're all asking reasonable and good questions. And again, I mentioned to take a look at the letter that Warner sent, as well as the quantitative analysis from the township. Happy to answer any of the questions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, hey, so Mark, what happens now?
So what I'll do is bring back Mike's opinion on next Tuesday's full board meeting underneath my report to bring more information to the board.
I just have a quick question. There was reference to Warner Norcross letter. Does the county have that letter? Because the only one I see is Dickinson.
I submitted it, I believe, to the county. I would send it to, go ahead.
Denny, did that come from you or Warner Norcross?
I had it drafted at the Fruitport Township meeting. There was such confusion that I said I would retain counsel and provide, and I don't mean that in too harsh of a way, legitimate confusion about this entire process. And I said, I'll provide a letter, and I was certain it went. I will get it to your inbox, Mark, after I sign off here. The final comment I'd like to make, I want you all to have this. I was trying to bring, further illumination to this stuff. The only other concern I have about this is if the county, there was significant discussion at the township. Heidi could better speak to this, but there was a lot of energy in the room, and perhaps more heat than light. But I think unless there's a positive leadership role here by the county, preceding the township vote, which is called for next Monday, that will put this in greater peril when I think there's no peril at all. And again, we'll get that letter out. I thought I sent it to, there was an email string that included the superintendent of schools and a number of the township report that we got that to, and I was certain it went to the county, but I'm delighted and desirous of the county having that.
Denny, could you just call the administrator's office tomorrow and get that? Maybe you could send it tomorrow morning.
Well, of course.
Get it, I mean, email it so he has it right away.
Yes, I'm apologetic. I was positive that Mark had it. So sorry about that, Mr. Administrator.
Mark, then we'll wait for more information, but that'll be coming very soon.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Can I make a comment, please?
okay,
This
go
is
ahead.
Katie. I know some of it is pretty confusing with this because it's almost like everybody needs to see the cart before the horse with this. Our board wants to know if the county is, going to partner in with us. And you guys want to know if the size can be smaller. And what the projects are going to be. And unfortunately, until a DDA board is established and they come up with a plan that then gets presented to our board for approval, we don't know really what the full scope of the plan is going to wind up being. But I will ask our attorney on Monday's meeting if there is a way that we can separate the two events that need to happen. We need to, within the 60-day window, we need to establish a district if we're going to do it, and we need to establish the boundary. I don't know if we can separate those two processes to alleviate some concerns on your side about the size of it, but I certainly will look at that. We understand the whole confusion behind it, because like I say, everybody seems to want to see the cart first, but we are being told that we have to do the process and the steps that are out there, unfortunately. So I will definitely have those answers for you. I will meet with our attorney and see if it's allowable that we can determine the boundary and yet not technically decide if we're going through with the mechanism of the DDA. I don't know that for you, but I'll check it.
Mr. Chair, let me just chime in. There's what the county has to do, and I'm not advocating one way or another. I'll let the county decide the policy issues. What the county is called on to do is either stay in by taking no action, in which case your taxes would be subject to capture, or opt out. You only get one chance to opt out. But coincidentally, under the act, just because you opt out doesn't mean you can't then opt back in by rescinding your opt-out resolution. In fact, the statute specifically provides that you can opt out and that resolution is effective until another resolution rescinding that resolution is filed. So that's why when, if you have concerns about whatever they may be, you have the ability to opt out, remedy or satisfy yourself with any of those concerns, and then rescind that resolution opting out if you so choose to do so. That doesn't mean from the township's perspective that the DDA process stops. They can continue to form the DDA, go through and develop a development plan, and in fact go through and adopt a TIF plan at some time. And at whatever time the county may be satisfied with that or not satisfied with it, then you could take further action to, say, agree to a revenue sharing agreement and rescind your resolution opting out, allowing a portion of your tax revenue to be captured. So there are a lot of different options. It's just that this is that one period in time where you get to completely opt out and preserve your ability to exempt your taxes from capture. But again, the county itself will have to decide the policy issues on whether or not to do that. But I don't want you to view this as an all or nothing approach with respect to opting out, except when it comes to opting out, this is your one sole time to opt out and exempt those taxes from capture. You can always get back in.
Mr. Chairman, it's Denny again. Quick comment. I appreciate that clarity from your legal counsel, but I would ask or offer as a practical matter that, particularly with the confusion on this that seems to be out there, I believe an opting out now by the county will send a message to the township that you've opted out for whatever reason. I would also ask if anyone on this, on the Ways and Means Committee or legal counsel has any one example where you opted out. I know of none in the last 25 years. That doesn't send a good message to the township. I respectfully disagree with legal counsel that you can cut a deal and opt back in later, and not in terms of that. He's exactly right. I don't question his recital of your options. I question whether or not that will essentially kill this. And I would think very hard about that. And I would think very hard about whether or not you've done that before and whether you've done revenue sharing before. Because at the end of the day, what isn't said is going to be far more impactful, unintentionally perhaps. Is it, I'm sorry. Homer, Mr. Homer. I think that there could be an unintended consequence there. No question legally about what you're saying, but I think the economic and the outcome realities of that could be significant. And if there is no precedent for it, if I'm a member of the Fruitport Township Board or any community, and I have a cursory at best understanding of what this law provides for and how it's executed, and it can be quantified, and the county, who in theory should have greater sophistication of assets for, or at least an equal amount of experience, because it oversees many municipalities, opts out, I'm out. So again, I'm advocating for this, but while I agree with legal counsel's assessment of options, I think that is essentially going to be something that will have an unintended negative consequence on this. And even your treasurer, whomever it was, said there is no financial loss. Your attorney mentioned there could be financial loss. That presupposes that I or anyone else will build without this. You have in the history of the planet, nothing has been built in that area. That probably should be an indicator of what might be needed, and what every other municipality I've ever worked in uses this tool. Fruitport Township's the only one I've ever worked in, and I've done close to $1 billion of development for my own account where I haven't seen it. So there are consequences. Thank you.
I'll just address one point. My role as corporate counsel is not to advocate the policy decisions. I'll leave that to the elected officials. But there is, you could never get to a revenue sharing agreement under the statutory provisions unless you opted out first, because it's just impossible in terms of the timing. So I'm not suggesting one thing or another to the county in terms of policy, but if the county is suggesting that or would consider some revenue sharing agreement in terms of the length and duration and the amount collected, there's only one way to get there, and that is to opt out first, enter into a revenue sharing agreement as part of the TIF plan, then rescind the resolution opting out. That's how you get there. I've done that in other municipalities as well. I'm not saying it's right for the county, and I'm not saying that you have any other revenue sharing agreements anywhere else in the county. I do not know. But I also don't believe that if you have no instances of either opting out or having a revenue sharing agreement, that is in any way, shape, or form binding on the county for all time, for all purposes, for all municipalities. It's just not. And so, but I do agree that you should think about the policy considerations carefully, and including this. It may be beneficial to the county. And so I will leave it at that and let the policymakers decide.
My final response to legal counsel, I agree with you that doesn't bind the county from anything historically hasn't done to being a mandate for what it cannot do in the future. I can tell you as a private developer that sends a chilling, I'm talking about policy now, not legal. That sends a chilling unwanted message to private development. That's irrefutable. If things are done that haven't been done, particularly when you've got a product up the street that is highly problematic, we think we begin the rejuvenation, and there's just no downside. Frankly, it's confusing to me. And if you, the council's right, just because you haven't done the past doesn't mean you can't do it now. I can tell you what that means to the private community, though.
Denny, we don't need a debate back and forth between the attorney and the developer.
Yes, I'm sorry, Chairperson.
That's okay.
I obviously feel passionate, and I care
Yeah,
about.
I know. I'm sure you do.
So I'll take that note and mute.
Can I throw an option out here, Mark?
Yes.
Considering what our legal counsel has expressed, is it possible that we could have an opt-out plan developed for the 27th with a opt-in financial agreement established for November the 10th?
That would be a lot of legal work, so I'm gonna let Mike answer that question. He knows what he has to do to make that happen.
Well, look, again, I think that the county itself needs to decide the policy, and you can do that. I don't, look, for instance, there's a specific provision under the statute. And let's talk about these two specific provisions. The one is the timing issue, and the timing issue is really what binds you up here, because if you don't opt out within 60 days, you forever lose that ability to opt out. So if the county believes that it wants to pursue some other arrangement other than a total opt-in, then you ought to opt out, because you can always opt back in, but not the reverse. And so you could opt out in the interim, get together a revenue sharing type agreement or some other terms or conditions that the county might believe is important, and then rescind that resolution opting out upon approval of that revenue sharing agreement.
And that's what I'm asking. Is that something that could be done on the 27th? We have an opt-out developed, and then on the 10th, have another revenue sharing agreement developed so that we could opt in on the 10th?
Yeah, I don't think the opt back in is vital in terms of timing. It's the opt out that is vital. So, if you say on the 27th decide to opt out with the direction that the county is going to meet with, say, the township and discuss those revenue sharing components, if you reach an agreement, then the county can always rescind its opt out resolution at any time.
Okay, and I was just trying to think of time consideration for the developer.
Yeah, I think that the biggest hurdle to those timelines would be whether or not you could reach an agreement within that short deadline on a revenue sharing component, if that's the direction that the county wants to go. Of course, the county can always decide to do nothing either, and then you would automatically be in. So there are these various policy discussions or considerations that the county needs to undertake. And, my job is to advise you on the legal aspect. And legally, what I'm telling you is you can either stay in, you can opt out, or you can opt out and then reach a revenue sharing agreement and then opt back in.
Okay.
And Commissioner Skolnick, if I may, if the board is looking to the idea of what Commissioner Nash is saying, it'd be helpful to give some type of direction. So it'd give me 2 weeks to work on that versus 1. Because if we don't get any type of direction until next Tuesday, obviously it gives us only 7 days to figure out exactly what that might look like. So any thought on that would be helpful.
I think it would be helpful to me if there was just like a sheet of paper with this kind of laid out as simple as it can be. What these, I mean, it's I listened to what Mike said. I listened to what Denny said, and it's just not. I thought this was easy. It's not as easy as I thought. Um, could we have some kind of a analysis, maybe in a page or two, of what the options are and what the pros and cons are, so everyone could look at it and I don't know. What do you think?
Mr. Chair, I have a
That would be
comment.
helpful.
Okay, go ahead. Who's next?
I have a comment, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So it doesn't seem that difficult to me. Matt Farah has already presented 3 different options to us. And we have a developer who is willing to make a significant investment into our county. That property has been sitting vacant for years, decades. A lot of it was old farm property that is not in use. We're not receiving any revenue from it now anyways, other than vacant land. Potentially, we would get significant revenues from this piece of property. It takes significant investment to turn this property into something with value, and that requires utilities to be there. Everyone knows what's happened to the west side of that corridor, and there are companies looking to move to Muskegon, but we need to provide some infrastructure for them. I don't see the downside to this. So I don't know why we would be turning away private development to the county, which is going to be future revenue to the county. I don't see, at this juncture, I don't see a reason for opting out, and I would like to move forward with it. We don't require a motion to move forward. It's informational item, and we're going to opt in. My comment to Heidi Tice would be, us taking no action today is affirmation to the Fruitport Township. So that's where I'd like to see it go.
I'd just like to say, I don't feel ready to make any decision that, well, I don't know when we have to take no action by, but I don't think we're ready to take action. I need time to digest all this, and hopefully a summary, as Commissioner Skolnick suggested.
Just to point out, this is Heidi Tice.
Heidi, Heidi, where the county commissioners are doing it now.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave in about 5 minutes, and I'll turn it over to Charles if this is still going on.
I think we can move on.
All right. So, Mark, what is the next? When will we talk about this again?
I'll bring back as much information on option 1 next Tuesday, which would be the 27th.
That's perfect. Okay. So next Tuesday, we'll have another bite at this thing, correct? I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer to me. I agree with Zach, and I thought it in the beginning. I mean, that golf course is, I guess, a nice amenity, but it's, that property could be better used with something like this, far better. And we're looking at tens to, maybe $100 million here. I don't know what his total project is, but okay. So now we have time for public comment. Yes.
I wanted to make sure that we also followed up on all the information that everyone had requested previously.
Yes, I wrote those down. Thank you.
Okay, public comment, anybody? I mean, we pretty much talked about the downtown
I
development
have
authority.
another new business item.
Okay,
Okay, you want to wait till
Given
full
the
board comments on
difficulty
that? Or
we've
you want
had
it now?
today with echoing, I think there's only 3 commissioners who are totally on WebEx. 2 of us had to come down here to get on a computer. 3 people had to call in, and Mr. Snyder was not in at all. So I think we need to consider other options. One could be going back to Zoom with added security that it was used by Health West. I was at a meeting last week, and we were told that they had added security that we could do also, but hadn't, or some other option. But this is not acceptable.
Marcia, I agree, and you can see up in the corner who is not muted, and somebody's not muting all the people. I would like to have Director Phillips give us some training, not only the county commissioners, but the people who are running this, so that we can move forward smoothly. If that's possible, Mark, would you get with Mark or get with Ivan and see if we can get that set up before the full board meeting?
On WebEx?
Yes.
Well, I'm making a motion to not use WebEx.
Second.
My only comment on that is we didn't give it a chance. We didn't take training in the beginning. We haven't had training now. I mean, it's so much more secure. I sure don't want to go through the same thing we went with before. And I think we owe it due diligence to go through some training. That's all I
I
have to
spent
say.
a half an hour trying to get in with 2 different people helping me. Ken had trouble. He couldn't get in. 3 people had to use their phones. You know,
That's why we
I
need
don't know how
training.
much training can help that.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Doesn't the court still currently use Zoom, but they use secure rooms? If that's the case, why can we not follow their example? They've never been hacked, nor can they be hacked on Zoom.
I think that's because we use closed sessions, and you can't do that.
Mr. Administrator, is there such a thing as rooms that are secure on Zoom that the courts use?
I would have to, DJ's shaking his head no, so he might be able to answer that question.
Or somebody can check with Julia Rupp or their IT person on what they do to make it secure, because they still use it.
But I do have to agree with Marcia. This is crazy. I'm on my phone instead of my pad. I couldn't get in.
Right.
That's why I want some training.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So when we first went to WebEx in the first place, I asked for a training and Commissioner Hughes shot it down.
No, that's not true. I've always wanted training.
So we've had multiple problems with WebEx. This is the same problem we had in the beginning and why we switched to Zoom. I had a problem logging in today. It took, I entered the meeting probably 10 minutes late because I kept trying to log in.
Me too.
I can't even log in from my home with this or my trailer. The bandwidth has to be so high, I have to be logged in on the county's internet service just to get in. It took 2 hours to download this program to my iPad from a remote access. This is absolutely ridiculous, and our county should be able to manage the IT of Zoom. Fortune 500 companies are dealing with Zoom flawlessly. The problem with our hack is not Zoom related. It's operator headspace.
The county does not have a Zoom license. The
Yes,
courts do, and IT and
Okay,
Southwest does. We
All
do
right.
not. We do not.
All right, Mark, will you get with Ivan and let's find out what the deal is with Zoom. Is there a super secure Zoom so we don't go through what we had before? I kind of agree the Zoom was better, but I don't think this WebEx. Maybe it does require more bandwidth. I don't know. Did everybody see the email that Kristen sent out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Even using that, it didn't work.
Well, it worked fine for me. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, but it didn't work fine for like 5 others.
So there's a,
Can I say
Commissioner Skolnick, I have a comment about that. I am assuming that you're on either cable, some form of Wi-Fi, but most of us don't have that. There are many rural areas that do not have cable.
no, Zach, I agree with you. You're right. I have pretty good, I have very good internet and it's fast. Where you are, you probably don't have it. It's not as fast. But Mark, will you get with Ivan and figure that out? Listen, I am going to turn this meeting. Charles, are you still there?
I'm still here, sir.
Okay, I'm passing the baton to you. Hopefully the worst is over. So I have to leave. Thank you.
We understand.
Charles, there is a motion and a support on the floor yet, just to remind you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I just wanted to add that, after having a good discussion with Julia, I guess their team had did some research and realized that we made some errors in using Zoom where we did not have it secure like we should. And I think it's important that we do, if we're going to go back to Zoom, that we have our IT and their IT working together to make
Perfect.
sure that we're doing this thing correctly.
Our IT doesn't have Zoom though.
No, but we need our IT team to work with their IT team so that we're doing it correct, because they have a great understanding of how it works and they've been secure and they haven't had any issues.
Right. Thank you for listening.
Can we listen if I think Dr. Rector Phillips is on. Just if he has a comment on that, could we listen to that?
I would think so.
Director Phillips, are you on?
Yes. Yeah.
You probably can't log in like the rest of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for
He's
thank you for unmuting me. This is Ivan Phillips, Director of IT, Muskegon County. To my knowledge, Zoom has not fixed the issue with Zoom bombing. That I know for a fact. At this point, there's nothing I can do to prevent that from happening again until they fix it. It's just that simple. WebEx has not had that issue. And I've never been offered the opportunity, although I've asked many times to do some training on WebEx so you all can actually use the product correctly. I've never been offered that opportunity. I would love an opportunity to actually work with all of you to teach you how to use WebEx correctly. And so you can all get in correctly, very easily, without having to register, because you're all, I know who the participants are, and I can set that up in advance. I would just like the opportunity to do so, versus having to suffer through what I saw was just a horrible experience for me watching that Zoom bomb.
Ivan, what about the echoing?
Again, that's part of the training. The echoing can come from several different sources. One, if you're dialed in, if you're using a headset, it's a wonderful thing, like you are. You sound very good to me, Commissioner Wright.
But I think I'm still echoing also.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, you are. And I'd love to find out why and then keep that from happening. It's not that big of a deal. Somehow you're close enough to somebody else, so it's getting picked up by some other audio source. That's all I can think. I need to figure out why and make it stop happening.
I think what we're trying to do is most of the commissioners are more comfortable and they really like using Zoom. We had a bad incident, and from what I've been told from the IT through Health West is that we did not have security properly set. And I think that if we do those things, we should be able to avoid that in the future. And, there's a motion on the floor. The
I
commissioners,
have the same understanding, Charles.
right.
Right.
But I just assume that if this vote is in favor of Zoom, that we need our IT teams to be working together on this.
I have zero problem with that, Commissioner Nash. I'm just letting you know that Zoom has not fixed their issue yet. So if it happens again, I don't want anybody coming back on me.
But it's working for Health West. They have not had any issues.
Actually, the week before, Health West was in a Zoom meeting that got Zoom bombed also, Commissioner Hubby, right?
Well, that was something that they disputed also, and they said that was not what happened.
Correct. It wasn't their meeting. It was a Zoom meeting they were in that got Zoom bombed.
Mr. Chair, isn't it correct our courts are still using Zoom with no issues whatsoever?
From what I understand, that is true.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment if I may also. So I hate to keep mentioning this Fortune 500 companies, but I have some personal experience with it. And I know one in particular, and they deal with difficult financial and client information, and they have never been hacked on Zoom. And the audio is so much better on Zoom. There's no echoes. It's easy to log in. Everything seems to work, and the public is aware of how that functions. We've never even had a public complaint about Zoom other than that Zoom bomb. And I don't necessarily think that's Zoom's fault. I'm not blaming them for that. I think it may be some security measures or operation within our own structure.
Yes.
That has absolutely nothing to do with the county's IT. That was strictly a cloud Zoom meeting. I can't emphasize that enough, but I made my recommendations. It's up to the board.
All right, any more discussion? There's a motion on the floor. We'll have a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Nash, I have the motion by Commissioner Javi Wright. I am not aware of who seconded it. I've missed that.
That was Commissioner Lake.
Thank you.
Commissioner,
and this is
Commissioner Laring.
yes, and this is to switch back to Zoom and have the county IT department work with the Health West IT department.
Correct.
Chairman Hughes.
No.
Commissioner Laring.
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Commissioner Nash.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins. Commissioner Wilkins.
She's still on.
We lost her.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Javi Wright.
Yes.
So that's 5 yes, 1 no.
It looks like that motion. Next,
Commissioner Nash?
yes, Mr. Administrator.
I have Prosecutor Nelson on for a resolution that you all received earlier today, I believe.
Prosecutor Hilson. It is
Yes,
your
sir.
floor.
Thank you for the opportunity. The resolution you have in front of you comes from a national organization that I've been a part of since I've been elected, called Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, and it's made up of sheriffs, police officers, and prosecutors throughout the country. And it really is an organization that is all about fighting for things to make our kids the future foundation and law-abiding. And one of the things that we've been heavily advocating for of recent months has been the funding and programming for after-school programs. And what I'm asking, what the organization was asking, because they are beginning some advocacy both at a local or a state, and national level, is that they reached out to me and asked if I could try and get a resolution from our county board, basically supporting after-school programs for kids. It's not asking for financial support. It's just basically a resolution that is saying, yeah, we believe that our kids in Muskegon County deserve the best in after-school programming, and we think that you policymakers should really focus in on that and find funding streams so that we can keep things like the Boys and Girls Club here, Pathfinders, and other after-school programs open and operational for kids so they have those opportunities. So it's really just we support our kids and we support after-school programming resolution. So I'm looking for.
Motion, we support that.
Support.
All right, it has been moved and supported to support the resolution. Any discussion? All right, roll call, Madam.
Commissioner Javi Wright.
Yes.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Laring.
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Commissioner Nash.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins. Commissioner Foster.
Of course, yes.
That's 6 yes.
All right, that motion passes.
I appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Any other new business? No new business? We'll move to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to have a comment?
Charles, I see 3 hands. Caller user number 8, Denny Charette, Heidi Tice, and Kim Cry.
Okay, user
That's
number
the
8 is
That's
and
Ken.
That's
we'll
me.
go to Mrs. Tice.
Thank you. I had a couple of comments, actually. First off, thank you to the board, and to Donna in equalization. She broke up the payments for that arrangement that we went into so that we wouldn't have to disturb this, this year's budget. And so we're gonna fix that into next year's budget. That was great. And hats off to them also for a perfect AMAR. I thought that was something that was wonderful to come out of the county. We're very pleased with the county. So one thing I would like to add about the DDA is that a few years ago, Fruitport looked at doing a DDA and we were told that the county would be an automatic no. And so that was why they stepped away from doing that. I'm hoping that we can work on it and not have my board think that it's still going to be an automatic no on that. So if you can look at that, and certainly I will look at how we can do the sizing of that to better fit your needs as well, that would be really appreciated, because I think it'll be a tough sell for the board if the county opts out. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Charette.
Thank you.
I do have a timer going on 2 minutes.
Okay. I'll just reiterate what I said before. I think while I would look very carefully with legal counsel's representation of what you legally can and cannot do to the real world implications of punting back to Fruitport before you do what you're doing, particularly if you've never done it and if you've never revenue shared. Not only do I think that leaves Fruitport adrift, I think it sends an unintended chilling message to private development. And indeed, you do have the options. You have all 3 that were outlined in the submittal. And I take a couple minutes and think this through, because I feel that legal counsel certainly understands the law. I would suggest that I understand the marketplace maybe a little better, and I think you have to consider. Thank you.
All right, next up is Mr. Kim Cry.
Excuse me, Commissioner Nash. I'd like to have a public comment if I could, please.
You're after Mr. Kim Cryer.
Thank you.
Unmute here.
Can we unmute Mr. Cryer?
Sear, it's Kim Sear.
Mr. Sear.
Thank
Mr.
you
Sear,
for that
Mr.
correction.
Commissioner.
Kim Sear.
Sear. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Charles, I'd just like to agree with you on the Zoom meeting with security. It just is so much better. I'm having such a struggle trying to understand what's going on this WebEx deal. That, and just on a positive note, I do appreciate the fact that Blue Cross came back with no cost increase for this year. That was a pretty good cost savings. So that's all I have today.
Thank you, sir, and sorry for ruining your name. Next up, Mr. Ivan Phillips.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. I believe when the board votes 9-0 with no dissenting votes, they can't overturn that vote when they voted for WebEx. Just a comment, that's all.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Could,
What was the
Ivan,
comment?
could you say that again, please?
I believe when the board votes 9-0 with no dissenting votes, that they can't overturn that vote. But it's just a comment, that's all.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if that's true, but there was a new motion that was offered, and a new motion will usually supersede the other motion. So
I guess our corporate counsel can answer this. I don't know.
Yeah. We didn't vote to rescind anything.
correct.
Yeah, look. I don't believe that just because you voted to use WebEx that you are forever prevented from using some alternative service, including Zoom.
All right. Any other public comment?
Commissioner Nash,
Yes, sir.
this is not public comment, but I have to make this, make you aware of this. Back to DJ Hilson's request.
Correct.
The event celebration of that is on the 22nd. With your permission, I would like to go ahead and have you sign that document, which is out of the ordinary. Usually we don't sign those resolutions until full board, but we would like to turn this in before the 22nd for the event that DJ Hilson was referencing. Is there any objection to that?
Is there any objection to that?
No, because I'm still quarantined, so I would really appreciate that, Charles, if you pick that up.
I have no problem in doing that. There's no objection, so count it
Thank
done.
you. Thank you very much.
Any other final board comments? If not, I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I'll move.
All right, we are adjourned.